Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Northborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Arthur Bergeron. I don't always sound this funny. I'm an elder law attorney. I work at Myrick O'Connell. There are 70 of us, and so everybody gets to pick what they like. I really like doing elder law, so that's why I do it. This show is not, though, about elder law. It is really about my friends Frank and Mary, who, if you've seen any of my presentations, they're the make-believe couple that I always talk about with their kids, Peter, Paul, and Mary Jr., and I always tell people what their goal in life is. They want to live in their house until they die. They want to be buried in the backyard. So if you can identify with that and you kind of like where you are, the question for Frank and Mary on this show is, if they don't want to just be in their house, they want to be in their community. So who should they know about, and what programs should they know about that will allow them to stay in their community until they die and be safe and be not embarrassed if they've got some memory problems, and have some place that if they've got issues, they can talk to somebody. Which actually leads me to today. So I have this wonderful co-host whom actually no one knows me, everyone knows her, Kelly Burke, who has been here for a long time now as the Senior Center Director. And I kind of begged her to be the co-host because she really does know everybody and the programs you need to know here in Northborough. And she always finds these great guests. And today she's got a great guest. So Kelly, can you just kind of talk about who we got?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to introduce Jocelyn Ehrhardt, who is our outreach coordinator. She's one of 3 full-time staff at the Senior Center, including me.
And that's exciting.
That's exciting.
And she's the outreach coordinator.
She is. She also wears the hat of volunteer coordinator as well.
Which is also very exciting.
It is.
Right? But we're not going to talk too much about volunteer coordinator today. We're going to talk a lot about outreach coordinator.
Yes.
Because, and I think we were talking about this a little bit before, Jocelyn, when I hear that term outreach coordinator, in the private sector, a lot of times that's a disguised term and it means marketing. So there are people that are out selling, which is really not kind of what a outreach coordinator is in a senior center. So can you start off by just talking about, so how did you get here exactly? Did you grow up in Northborough, or are you an outlander, right? And what did you do to make you interested in this? And then talk to us a little bit about what outreach coordinator is.
Sure.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, thank you, Arthur.
And then after that, we'll talk about volunteer coordinator. No, just outreach coordinator.
I have lived here about 20 years. I moved here from Colorado, and I went to graduate school in Colorado and worked with the Gerontology Institute at the university, and kind of rolled into working with elders from there, just continued. Once I came out here, I was really fortunate to get a job at the Needham Senior Center doing outreach, and enjoyed it very much. It just gave me a wide opportunity to interact with resources and services and people, and was really thrilled when an opening developed at the Northborough Senior Center. I had enjoyed the Needham Senior Center, but living in this area, it was just a great opportunity to cut my commute.
Right, Needham's a wonderful community, but
yeah, it's very nice,
yeah.
And it was very supportive. But this turned out to be a very supportive situation as well.
And you've been here for a while now, because so for me, not that I'm new to the senior center, but it's like as long as I've been going, which is several years now, you've always been there. So you've been doing it for a while.
I have, yeah. I came to the position in Northborough in 2008 when we were still at the Center Drive location, and then moved up to the Barefoot Road location, which has changed everything, the way we do everything. So that's been a really great opportunity.
So you know the answers to all this stuff, but I'm going to ask. So what does an outreach coordinator do kind of exactly? Because if you can just kind of talk about what you do and even kind of some of the situations, the kinds of things that you really kind of get asked and what you kind of need to know about. Because the goal is really for people to understand kind of no matter what the question, they should be, you're a sensible person to start off by talking to,
Yeah, well, outreach is a very broad service or program, and so sometimes I think it is hard for people to really understand what it's about. But people of any age with aging-related concerns in the community can access outreach. It doesn't have to be an older resident. It can be somebody who's concerned about their older neighbor or a parent elsewhere. Yeah, it could be, somebody who lives in Northborough, is, a younger adult and is concerned about their parents in another community even. But just the fact where, the connection is...
And can you then kind of connect them to the senior, whoever the senior services are, wherever they are?
Yeah.
Now, do you get the flip of that very often? Because I know a lot of my clients, they've been here forever, but like my kids, they're all over. The kids are all over, and sometimes they're worried. So do you get calls often from like somebody from out of town saying, do you know?
We do, and actually it's not uncommon this time of year after people have gotten together for Thanksgiving or the holidays to get those kinds of phone calls. People have gotten reunited for a period of time, maybe come to visit and see their parents' car or conditions in the house, and red flags start to pop up. So we do get those kinds of calls, and it's just not unusual this time of year to get kind of a little bit of a spike in that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And so what? And then what do you do? So a person calls, and certainly I've heard that from folks. They've been away.
Yeah.
I had a case in Nantucket where there was a niece that would call. The folks were from New Jersey. They'd moved to Nantucket. They didn't have any family on Nantucket, but this woman from New York would call, and they would literally say, "Oh, we're really enjoying the sunrise at Syosconset on one of the beaches, or we're really enjoying the sunset at Mattocket on the other side of the island." She didn't realize it was because they were living in the car. They had hoarded their way out of their house, and they were at this point primarily living in the car, right? But who knew, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're kind of connected, right?
Yeah, that's an extreme situation, and people do come to outreach in crisis, but we really hope that people come to us before then,
Right.
just when they're even thinking and starting to plan. Yeah. The idea is that outreach is available to people who need information and resources kind of tailored to their own needs, and that will also advocate for them with those same services. A lot of times I help people with paperwork. When you're dealing with these kinds of life-altering issues, just the paperwork can put you over the edge. So,
A lot.
yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. It's daunting. A lot of legalese, just confusing, and people are afraid to do it wrong. So, when we sit down together, a lot of times it just goes better.
And a lot of times will people bring in their paperwork with you and say, like, I can't figure out this Medicare thing, or I can't figure out, and then you just kind of go through it with them?
Sure. Shine is available at the Senior Center to help specifically with Medicare-related issues, but people will bring in items that they have questions about. But the other thing about outreach is that I can go to someone's home. I can meet them at home. I can, get out of the Senior Center, kind of extend the reach of the Senior Center, much like our van program does. It gets out there and brings the Senior Center to people who might not come in. So I can go out and meet people at their home. It's a different perspective, but I think it's really beneficial.
And it might be a very clarifying perspective,
Exactly.
too, if you're going to it. And now I have some other, you don't mind my talking.
Not at all.
And I'm trying not to sound too gurgly. But before we continue, can you also mention, so if they are calling, who do they call? What number do they call?
Sure. People that have questions about outreach or want to make an appointment, just all they need to do is call the Senior Center. It's 508-393-5033. 35, is that right?
That's right.
That's good. That's,
Good.
We don't call
that's
each
very
other,
good.
ourselves
Well,
too much.
yeah,
Yeah.
I understand. It's like looking at your cell phone, like, who am I? Who am I?
right,
And we
exactly.
always have somebody, a volunteer, that answers the phone
Mm-hmm.
during business hours. So
And
somebody
is there
would
like
talk-
an email also, or is it just a phone? Do you
There's
really need to call?
an email also.
long email.
Yeah, it's quite long.
So we may not do that, but what we'll do is we'll have a banner for this show so that people can, if they want to write it down or if they've got a question, they can call.
Yeah.
Now, can we go back to what you were talking about? So you get calls after Thanksgiving, and once again I hear these, right?
Yeah.
We just saw Mom and Dad. Things aren't going quite. It isn't quite the same as what they said when they were talking over the phone during the year, right?
Yeah.
And here are some issues, and maybe there is some memory loss issues, or maybe there's some other things. So what do you do? They call, they're far away. What do you do?
Well, you try to do something of an assessment of the situation. Get input from the caller. Try to meet with the people that they're calling about. Gather information.
So maybe you'd actually call them and just see if you can stop in.
Yeah, I really like to visit people, get together with them. A lot of times people are hesitant about coming to the senior center, but a one-on-one can work a lot better.
Right.
So just try to gather information about the situation and the concerns that have been raised.
And when you stop at a house that way, and you must call ahead and then try.
Sure.
Typically, what is the response? Do you find that people are really kind of defensive about this or hesitant about this?
Yeah, I think it's a mixed response.
Yeah.
A lot of times people will, be very open about it, and we have the opportunity to talk. They might be a little bit less open about the idea of opening their home to services and that kind of thing. So it's definitely a process. It's not something that just happens, overnight or easily. But I think once the contact is made, then we can kind of keep a presence, and even if it's not often, just do kind of a reminder, check in periodically.
And just stop by.
Yeah.
And say they decided, say it's Frank and Mary, and one of them has got some memory issues, and Frank's been kind of really, say Mary's got some problems. Frank's been killing himself, right? Not
Yeah.
telling anybody, closing the shades. We don't want to be bothering the neighbors, and finally he decides, oh, maybe it would really help me so that I don't drop dead, right? If we
Yeah.
get some services in, what can be done in those cases, in those kinds of
A lot of
cases?
times it's more than people expect, which is the good thing. It's
Yeah.
hard to know without talking to people, but after gathering information about finances and how they're managing things, just the day-to-day things, how they actually manage certain tasks, we can start to identify their options a little bit more. It may be contacting Bay Path Elder Services,
Bay Path Elder Services, what's that? Is that-
that's the aging services access point for our region. And
So that's not a private sector thing. It's a.
no, they have a contract
people
with
really
the
help.
state
I
to do assessments and provide case management for a range of services. And once getting people hooked up with Bay Path can be the start of a very long-term relationship in which services kind of come and go for that person and support them in their home.
Because I suppose, well, like we both of us find, getting older is like when you're a little kid growing up. I mean, it's a change time. We have this kind of long middle period, which is kind of like a plateau, but then people change as they get older. So really having that kind of constant check-in must be a real deal, to kind of follow people.
Yeah, I think it's really nice from the standpoint of the senior center that people allow us to have that kind of involvement with them. And, one of my goals is to really provide them with caring and involved service. So, I find it an honor to be able to do that.
And
I'm sorry.
Tell.
Just a couple things
Yeah,
that I think
yeah.
people should know too. When they talk to Jocelyn, it's completely confidential. So it's just between them. And I think people find too there are options that we don't know about, like everything else. Aging is kind of a maze, and there's a lot of stuff out there.
And unless you've been
Jocelyn
there.
can kind of minimize that maze and get, you know, services or resources. And it's always up to the person what they decide to accept as services as well. It's not, Jocelyn doesn't go in and prescribe, but she offers those things to
and
folks.
it doesn't, and for a lot of people, it's not even about in-home services. It might be about making them aware of fuel assistance that helps them save hundreds of dollars every winter.
So you have to be the fuel assistance person too?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then also, you know, the property tax abatements that are available
You're the
in
property-
North.
yeah.
Well, I do that in coordination
Right.
with the assessor's office, but
Right.
people, just making people aware of these options can drastically change, you know, their outlook for whether they stay in their home or not.
I think those two are huge. I mean, for a lot of people that I see, other than the food bill, the tax bill is the biggest bill they have. And they
Yeah.
often have no idea that they actually have a way, you know, that the state
Yeah, there
government's
may
provided
be-
some ways to help them deal with that. right?
Exactly, yeah.
And the fuel assistance still is a mystery to me. How that works is like a complete mystery. So if people were concerned even at this point, it being almost the end of the year, about fuel assistance, is it like too late to
Oh,
to
no,
talk
that
to them?
program, it's a seasonal program, and applications are accepted till the end of April.
Oh.
So if people are interested, they just need to call the senior center and talk to me, and, you know, after a few questions, we can determine whether or not that's the best way to go.
And can you give folks just a sense of who might be eligible? Because I know that I think a lot of people hear about fuel assistance and they're like, I must need to be really poor in order to get fuel assistance. You know, they kind of have no idea.
Well, yeah, you're going to stump me, but it's 60% of the median income. So
Oh, but median family income?
well, yeah, it's, you know, for single, they have
Yeah.
it calculated for
Yeah.
a single
Yeah.
person, a couple, you know, for different sized families. So it's, I think, I mean, it
That could
really
be
applies to a lot of people. And if they're not eligible for that program,
Yeah.
it's possible there's another program that might be able to work with them. So I think it's worth checking into. I just think people aren't aware that these things are out there, and it's worth asking about.
Right. Or you kind of know they're out there, but you're like, where do I start? You know,
Exactly.
you're in the, you know, there is no more phone book, right? And and there's one of the hardest parts about being old, as opposed to being a kid. You know what you do when you're a kid. You go to school, and you're right there, and that's it, right?
Yeah,
but when you're
that's your point of
old,
contact.
there's all these different programs, and you just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So the bottom line message is that they should always start with you.
Yeah,
That's
I'd like
very-
to think
that's
that
very
that's
in.
good advice.
think
You know,
so,
we
too.
really want to make, you know, this an easy point of contact for people, and then help them reach out.
And Kelly, from your perspective, as I think we had mentioned when we were talking before the show, you had two part-time folks, right, that were doing this, and now you kind of merged that into full-time, and certainly, I bet since you've come to the new senior center, I bet the total traffic you get has really grown.
Yeah, it really has.
Because when I go there now, it's just constant. I mean, I just tell people, have you gone, right? Because typically the reaction is, oh no, those were all those old people. I'm like, trust me, you know. this
People
is-
are very active that come to the senior center doing a
Right.
lot of different things.
I mean,
and
they're dull though, aren't they really dull?
there's
I
a
heard-
dull men's group,
There's
but
a dull
that's
men's group?
but that's an international club now. I didn't name that one. So,
didn't know
but
that it
those
was
are
international.
very interesting guys and very inquisitive, and they
Very
have
inquisitive.
a great meeting every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock.
I just love the name. And so when you're, I just wanted to ask you about, from your own perspective, so how do you see things going? If in the best of all worlds, I mean, you've grown a lot of things. You've grown the cafe from small to kind of one person to now, you've really grown it. And in many ways self-supporting, right?
It is self-supporting.
How do you see this piece? And is there anything, as far as you're concerned, that's kind of missing to this point that you'd really like to see there? Or just your sense, or have you seen things from other senior centers that you think would just be terrific? I'm just wondering. Just
Well, as you know, we've done some work with dementia.
Tremendous.
And
Yeah, a lot.
making a dementia-friendly community. We have Daybreak now, which is a respite for caregivers and good activities for folks that have dementia.
And can you just talk about, once again, for folks who haven't stopped in, can you just talk about how that program works?
That's a grant program that we have with that we share with Hudson and Marlborough. It was Janice Long, the director in Hudson, that came up with the Daybreak concept.
Yeah.
She shared it with Marlborough and Northborough, and now we have 3 days a week where people can access that in those 3 communities. And if you had a loved one that had dementia and you were interested in the program, you can call any of the senior centers and we can tell you more about it. And
it's really for folks who have got, perhaps maybe have some memory loss, or who have a
Yes.
caregiver who's got memory loss.
Yeah.
And that's been a very successful
That's been
program.
successful, and so again, that could be something that someone would talk to Jocelyn about, and she could, just
And
tell
she,
them
could, and she could start connecting folks in.
Right,
Yeah.
for resources. I mean, I think in some ways it's one of the best kept secrets, outreach. But I hear all the time people telling me how great Jocelyn is and what a great resource it is for the senior center. And I think I just want people to know that we're there for, it's a kind of your answer to aging.
And from your perspective, Jocelyn, can you see any particular things that you'd want to be in the future? Can you see these programs evolving? And from what I'm sure you communicate with outreach folks from all around the state, right? Is the job changing? Are the demands that you find, that you get calls for, changing?
Yeah, I think just like the population that's aging is changing, so are the situations that come up that we're dealing with. There's certainly, changes where people need a broader variety of housing. So I think we're going to, I think we're really going to see a lot of changes, and there is a group of outreach workers that meets in each ASAP region, and it's really beneficial to talking about those kinds of things and identifying resources and staying current and
just trading stories. That must be a very entertaining.
It's very helpful.
Not dull. That must
Yeah.
not be a dull meeting.
No.
So I just I know we only have a few minutes left, but I try to, at the end of each show, have Kelly just talk about kind of what's coming from your perspective. What's going on at the senior center over the next, because we try to do these shows once a month. Right, what's going on?
Well, right at the end of this month, so I'm not sure if it's going to be before we air for this,
Well,
but we
that's
have
okay.
an almost New Year's Eve party
Almost New Year's Eve.
on
And
December 31st.
And it's because it's like almost Christmas.
Right, it's
so
countdown.
I bet that show will be on, so that's good. And
Countdown to noon instead of midnight.
countdown to noon, and it's at the
And
senior center.
At the bistro, Vicki and
At the
Carolyn
bistro.
are making a wonderful brunch menu for that. So we have a few tickets left.
Yeah.
And into the new year,
Oh,
we're
and
adding.
it's a ticketed item. So,
It is.
so if they want a ticket, they have to talk to you. They have
They have to
call.
call the senior center
And
and get
they
their
have that
ticket.
number. Okay.
Yes.
What else?
In the new year, we're doing some Photoshop computer classes.
Photoshop.
We have Photoshop, and Mimi, our computer instructor, is there every Thursday afternoon starting in January. So if you've got old photos, like we all do, and you want to make some corrections to them if they're crumpled and things like
Yeah.
that, or if you'd like to make albums, or you just want to get them organized, Mimi's there.
That is
She's
so cool.
wonderful at that, and I'd like to take it, but I have to be in the office.
But
so.
you have to be. So, and that's Thursdays,
Every Thursday afternoons, Photoshop afternoons,
starting at
starting
afternoon.
the first Thursday in January.
I get, and it's just for the whole app. So literally, you can show up anytime during the afternoon.
Yeah, we'd
That's
like
great.
to know that you're coming, because we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
12 computers that we can use
Yeah.
in the lab.
Yeah.
So we'd ask for pre-registration on that. We have Technology Tuesdays with the Algonquin students that come up. So if you, for Christmas, get one of those
Things
iPads
you're
or
like,
an e-reader.
"What the hell is
and
this?"
you
Yeah,
think,
right.
yeah.
They'll
We go to
explain.
the experts, and the experts are the students
That's
from Algonquin.
great.
So
That's great.
that's on Tuesdays, and I don't have those exact dates for January, but we do have our newsletter. Newsletter's on the website for the town, so.
That's terrific. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jocelyn, it was just really interesting. I think for a lot of people that might have these kinds of questions, they had no idea there was somebody they could actually talk to about this stuff. To know that this is, and just see who you are, it's just really important.
Oh, well, thank
So-
you. Thanks for the opportunity.
No, thank you very much, Kelly. Always a pleasure.
Thank you,
Have
Arthur.
a wonderful holiday,
You
folks.
too.
So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in 2019. with the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Northborough. Thank you very much.